Hi, I'm John. This is my show, A Sports Reckoning. So, it's not easy to even make these videos because of what the content is. Psychologically on me, okay, it's not the easiest kind of stuff. It's not an investigation that I want to do. I don't want to do this shit. I mentioned my last video or whatever, the video before, I was saying how I'm overwhelmed with evidence, and people don't understand that it's there's all this little stuff, and then when you're trying to make a video, you have to figure out what are you going to use. Plus, I have to go searching for stuff, and then I have to build the video. It's just not easy. Plus, there's a lot of other stuff that I have that you people are just not aware of whatsoever. And you'll hear me talk a lot about Michael Jackson, and one of the big parts about it is because Michael Jackson acts just like Jimmy. There's so much similarities, right? And Michael Jackson is widely considered to be a pedophile, okay? And I agree and say that what he did in his behavior, it looks that way. Unless you have insider, in-depth, some kind of knowledge that could alter that appearance of him looking like a pedophile, then I say, yeah, it's fair to assume that he was a pedophile, right? But like I said, I do a Michael Jackson thing, and I have a much bigger story about Michael Jackson, that he was actually abandoned as a child by Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson, his real parents. When Michael Jackson gets to Motown, he's 10, 11 years old. That's when Diana Ross tells him, okay, so Michael Jackson's life, you have to understand that he was abandoned as a child. He thought he made it to Motown with his family, the Jacksons, but as he gets there and thinks he's made this big accomplishment, Diana Ross takes that from him and says, no, you're not part of that family. You're actually my child, but you've got to then go stay living back with that family. And then now Michael's got to deal with all that shit in the media. And it's that's a big burden for which him to carry. And you can see that throughout his life, you can tell he was damaged. He's calling himself Peter Pan, living in the Neverland Ranch. And everybody is like, well, what the hell is this about? Because you're a rock star, you should be fucking bitches all the time and shit, right? So nobody's can understand. Everybody's there's something. Everybody knows that there was something wrong with Michael Jackson. But nobody ever understood the real true story. So the best explanation of what people can actually do is say, well, he's a pedophile, obviously. And like I said, I agree. I understand why people would do that. So in this video, I'm going to show you something else, though. I'm going to show you other things that happen in the Michael Jackson stuff. I'm going to show you how it's relating to this in ways that's now this, I'm telling you, things get weird. And I'm having to carry this stuff, and you people don't know all this stuff of what I'm carrying, all this information and stuff, right? So I wanted to mention also, I went looking on Santiago's sports page because there's a couple pieces of in the video I have with Jimmy with his zipper down in that hotel lobby. Okay, that's on Santiago's sports page. And there was two other things in that I wanted to show. Is that the one I highlighted is Jimmy with the zipper down. So then I wanted to show you, I was going to show you other photos of Jimmy having encounters with kids. Now, I believe in those videos you can't see the zippers down, so that's why I had to emphasize, I had to show you first that his zipper's down, then I was going to go back and show you another time his other interactions with kids, but it was more important just to show you the zipper down before I added in the kids. Like I said, there's other stuff there, but I didn't add it into the video, right? And I do believe there's in that video also, I'm not positive, but I think I was going to double check that Santiago Sports right now is got this saying where he says, he'll say that dude fucks, right? And what he's saying is that dude is good with, I think his terminology of that statement is that it's he hits he's heavy in sports cards, he's got big cards. I think that's what he's saying, right? So now around his personal shop, because he could be friends with some of the kids that are coming in, he might actually know their parents and they're friendly. And if he wants to say that around their parents and then he says it, and if it's something that they do, an insider thing, like I said, I'm not totally against things like that. If he did that around his personal friends and their friends' little brothers and they're saying that, that's the real world. I'm not trying to say the real world doesn't exist and you're not allowed to do things that look inappropriate and stuff, right? I'm not saying you got to be perfect, but as long as you ain't fucking kids, right? It's that's the whole thing. You're allowed to do shit, but you're not allowed to be fucking kids. You're not allowed to be touching kids. That's a whole different thing. And when you're in that environment, a person like Jimmy, is what I'm saying is that Jimmy was a principal of a school. He's been around these camps and stuff, right? So in those positions, I would think it would be clearly obvious that those people would be highly trained not to be touching the kids. Unless it's a big, much bigger like pedophile thing where it's accepted, and maybe they're doing it to recruit kids to molest, and I don't know. The world gets fucking freaky and shit. There's shit that's out there that's like, I don't even understand what's going on. Things get on a high level, and there's all kinds of abuse going on, and you've got so many kids in the world who are actually being abused that when they grow up to be adults, they think that that's the natural order of the world. That they think, oh yeah, everybody gets abused as kids. They think it's like common and shit. But there would be another thing where they keep it secret. They think it's totally acceptable and everybody does it, but you keep it secret, and then that's what, like, just, I don't know. Like I'm saying, I don't know, but I can see things about things like this that are going on. Weird fucking shit, right? So somebody came on my page and mentioned to check out this video of Jimmy in Colombia, right? And then it's like, it is Jimmy in Colombia. And there's, like I said, there's other parts of this video that I want to show you too, when he talks about buying cleats for low income families or stuff like that, and it's like, well, that's what Jimmy would do. And here he's in Bogota, Colombia, right? So that's like the cocaine capital of the world. And see, I've been around. When you've got a guy with money, like especially like a white guy, you go to like these other countries like Bogota, and there's these people that like look at white people like, whoa, here's some white people with money, and they look at them like in certain ways like, let's get some money out of that. And if you've got some woman who's been raised in poverty and sexually abused her life, then see, people, you got to deal in the real world. There could be a woman who was sexually abused her whole life, right? Now she's got a cocaine problem, and she could have been, like one night she could have been partying and blitzed out of her mind, and then she got raped, so she doesn't even know who fucked her, and the next thing you know, she's pregnant, and that's the kid she's got. She's not going to care too much about that kid. A lot of people like that, they don't really care about that kid. So they're looking at that kid to like, well, how can I benefit off this? And a lot of people, like in situations like that, they'll get this rich white guy that comes into town and they see he's goofy. They know instantly. If they've got that radar, you know, to spot, oh, this guy's looking for some young boys and shit, right? So the girl offers the boy to Jimmy. Jimmy doesn't even have to do anything. He knows by placing himself in that position and being the way he is with money, he knows, because he's probably had these encounters, that he's had these women offer their kids to him for payment. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, shit gets freaky in the real world. It's freaky out there, right? It's freaky fucking shit, right? Oh, I want to mention that I was saying about the Santiago Sports. So I was looking for that video on Santiago Sports page today, and I couldn't find it. And I remember that every time I've ever looked for that video before, I knew right where it was at. I know what it looks like, and it was super easy for me to find. But I went over there today, I couldn't find it. I was clicking on stuff, I couldn't find it. So it's like, okay, did he remove that video? And if he removed the video, you got to look at the larger context. He did not come out and say, Jimmy's not a pedophile. I've been around him. He's definitely not. He never came out and said that. You know, he didn't come out and say my accusations were wrong. He didn't never do anything. But if he removed that video, then that says that he saw that what I was saying about Jimmy made Jimmy look bad, and I had evidence to prove it, which was something, a video on his page, and he removed that video. And it's like, if he did that, that's like, what is that? Is that a serious offense? Aiding and abetting. Aiding and abetting. Yeah, it's serious and shit, right? So it's like, that's what he's doing. Is he now covering for Jimmy? And it's like, that's what I'm saying. Who else is involved in this? It's like, what's Santiago Sports' role in this? Why is Jimmy using these young YouTubers like Santiago Sports and Mojo Sports and Card Collector 2? Just to mention that the last video I had said 10 people, but I ended up only having 9. I forgot I wanted to put Card Collector 2 in there. So just so you know, Card Collector 2, you're guilty too. You're involved in this shit too. You're guilty too of all this shit. So let me go ahead and get into this video, and let me show you a couple things here. Let me just show you this right off of the bat. This is Jimmy. He's in Colombia. Okay, and let's listen to how he got to Colombia.
So 3 years ago, I was in charge of hiring the staff for a camp. And one of the things we had to do was find folks to come from international countries to help us out. And I had met this man who had already worked at the camp, Juan Pablo Duarte. And he was awesome, and he was like, well, I've got a bunch of people in Bogota that would love to work there. And I said, well, that's awesome. Zoom is great, in person is better. So I said, I'll be there tomorrow. And he was like, what?
One day ahead.
We're like, one day. So we got all these people together. I flew down, took everybody to dinner, and we hired 30 Colombians between the two camps.
Okay, so this is what he's saying. One day he talks to him. The next day he's in Colombia buying everybody dinner, hiring 30 freaking Colombians for this camp. It's like, what is going on? What? And if you look back there at the soccer field, there's a bunch of kids running around. Here it is again, Jimmy placing himself in a position of authority or opportunist with all these access to all these little kids. You look back, it's kids running around, all these kids playing soccer. It's just like, it's weird. There's all kinds of weird shit going on. Now, I'm going to show you something that's like different, and you guys we're going to follow this and shit, right? And so, now we're going to go into my Michael Jackson stuff a little. I'm going to show you a couple things. Now, this was a big YouTuber, okay, in YouTube. This kid, you can see his picture up there. You can see him dancing there and stuff, but his picture's up there above it. It says River Gibbs. He still has almost 80,000 subscribers, but he was just about to hit like 100,000 subscribers right before the Leaving Neverland came out, okay? And so this actually happened. He was a big Michael Jackson fan, but he's also homosexual. He like, I have a video I could show you of him proposing to his boyfriend in Las Vegas. He's asking his boyfriend to marry him. Like, he's full homosexual, right? And so, but on his page was a lot of kids. He had a lot of kids around there and shit. And because I was going after him, because I was trying to tell my Michael Jackson story to big Michael Jackson fans, and he was good at editing. And it's like, well, if I can get this guy to help me, he's good at editing, and maybe he can assist me in making videos. I was just gonna, I don't care who they are. If they can help me with my Michael Jackson story, I was willing to work with them. But then he was never interested, and he started telling weird stories about Michael Jackson, saying Michael Jackson was castrated by Dr. Conrad Murray had said that Michael Jackson was castrated when he was young by Joe Jackson so that Michael Jackson could keep his high voice and shit, right? But it's like, that shit's not true either. And Joe Jackson never would have done that to Michael Jackson, being the son of Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson. Joe could beat him and smack him and shit, but he couldn't freaking castrate him, like chemically castrate him, not chopping off his balls, but chemically. It's like Joe couldn't do that. Joe wouldn't do that because that's not his kid. He wouldn't do, and you would think, well, maybe he would do it because it is a kid. No. That's the kid that he got from Barry Gordy, who's the kid of Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson. He wasn't going to hurt that kid and do that kind of destructive thing, because then they could expose the truth that he's not part of the Jackson family, and it would destroy all of the Jacksons, right? So Joe would not be that, he couldn't go to that level of abuse to Michael, right? But this guy was willing to come out and say, oh, Michael was chemically castrated because Dr. Conrad Murray said that. And it's like, well, Conrad Murray's the guy who freaking technically killed him and shit, right? So I'm not going to trust his opinion so much, right? But so, it was the thing that got me mad. It's like, okay, River Gibbs, you're willing to say that you're willing to make these allegations that Michael Jackson was chemically castrated, but you're not willing to even look into it a little bit, that maybe Michael was actually abandoned as a child? Because my story is the real story, right? And I actually explain the songs. I'm not just telling the story. I actually explained Michael Jackson's songs because he was explaining what had happened to him in his real life, but nobody could ever understand it because nobody knew who he really was and shit. So I was doing the high level of investigation. So I went to people like this and I was shunned. And this is the kind of thing that happened in the sports car community and stuff. And I've been shunned in ways, and it pisses me off and shit, right? So I started going after River Gibbs, like the same way I'm going after people now. Okay, well, he ended up being one of my targets and shit, right? But I wasn't just going after him. I was going after a number of other people in the Michael Jackson community too. Anybody who wouldn't talk to me or investigate my story, I instantly called them fake, and I started attacking them and calling them fake, right? So I was blasting on River Gibbs hard. I was on him, and people knew that I was on him, saying he was fake. And then I could see that he was like wanting to get out of it too. He was because he was doing dancing impressions and stuff. I could see he was losing interest and having to go through all the effort. I could see that he was losing interest in it. So I was on him, and everybody knew that I was on him. And then Leaving Neverland came out. So this guy, River Gibbs, it was hilarious. It's one of those things that you had to witness. You wouldn't even believe it unless you saw it happen. The day before Leaving Neverland came out, River Gibbs made a video and said, "We know this is all lies. We're going to stay strong. Don't worry," right? The day after Leaving Neverland came out, he came out and said, "Michael Jackson's a pedophile. I'm done with him." It was hilarious. And then it came up again. It's like, okay, River Gibbs, you're saying Michael Jackson was chemically castrated. You're willing to step out and say Michael Jackson's a pedophile, but you're not willing to even investigate my story, saying that Michael's an abandoned child and the damage that Diana did to him by informing him at 10 years old, that it perfectly aligns with everything. Mine's the real story and shit, but they weren't willing to investigate that shit. So I just like blast him as fakes, like total frauds and shit, right? So this guy left the community and shit. He's been gone. And so you can see, I'm going to show you here. See, this says there's a kid. Like I said, there's always these kids and shit, right? But so River has left. Okay, so River Gibbs left the community. That's when he left, and people were like, whoa, he left. Let me show you something that's hilarious, because this is River Gibbs' page, right? If you go down, but because of the work I'm doing, if you go down here, this is going to be hilarious. Look at, there's Santiago Sports and Flippin' Steve on River Gibbs' page. Isn't that hilarious? Oh, when I saw that, I'm like, oh shit, now freaking Santiago Sports and Flippin' Steve are on River Gibbs' page because of the connection to me and shit, right? That's hilarious. How'd you guys end up on River Gibbs' page? Oh, that's hilarious. But now, I'm going to show you, this is the other thing about River Gibbs. Okay, now, I'm going to go ahead and I have to go over here, because this is a video I had of an old video, right? This is like a video I had stashed in my video list that I had to go back and look in the old folders to find this one, right? But what I'm going to show you here, okay, so River Gibbs was gay, but it turned out that his dad was gay too, okay? And so what I'm mentioning about showing Jimmy's Kentucky Roadshow and showing now he's doing all this stuff where he was the principal of school, and then he's doing these camps and working in foster care, and now he's organizer of camps and hiring people from Colombia, and now he's in Colombia, that there's this bigger, larger picture of what's going on. And then so it made me think the other thing too, it's like, you know what? I think, I was thinking River Gibbs, I think River Gibbs is from Kentucky. Like I said, because he's homosexual and his father was homosexual, right? But his father was married, and he met his wife like at the church. That's what I'm telling you. This is the true story. This is how it was. His father and like his mother like met at the church, and they married and stuff. They thought they were good Christians. Like the mother thought she married a good Christian man who was a cop who used to be in the military. First he was in the military, then he was like a cop and shit, right? Then he's married, he's going to church. You would look at that guy like a pillar of the community, right? This is River Gibbs' dad I'm talking about. You would think like, boy, a guy like that, and then he's got a kid, young kid River, he would look like a total upstanding pillar of the community, right? But what I'm saying is there's this other shit that we don't know about. And like the River Gibbs' dad being a homosexual, he never should have married the woman and had a kid. And if he informed her, like I was saying, this should be a law. If you think that there's a chance that you're homosexual and you marry a woman, you have to inform her. It has to be documented. You have to sign the document saying, okay, but I think I might be gay too. I'm marrying you, but I might be gay a little bit too. So if I end up leaving you for a man, well, then that's the way it goes. It should be like the law. A man should not be able to marry a woman knowing that he's got homosexual tendencies. That's what I was saying and shit, right? So like River Gibb got real mad at me for saying shit like this. And it's like, well, dude, what the fuck? What kind of bullshit world do you fucking live in where you're just some dude, you marry a dude, some chick at the church, and then 10 years later you're saying, oh, you know what, sorry, honey, I don't really love you because I like sucking cock and shit, right? What the fuck? Right? So I wanted to show you this because this is linked to the story with what we're talking about with Jimmy. And we don't know how big and what's going on and who's involved in shit, right? But these are the kind of people that run around in normal society and shit. And this is the way they look and stuff. But when you see their real life, there's a lot more crazy fucking shit going on. So this would be a video from my old page that I had made and shit, right? I'm going to play it off, start playing it. Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I am proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. Today I'm going to be talking about River Gibbs again. And this is, I'm assuming, Kentucky State Troopers. And River Gibbs' dad was a trooper for 17 years. And it looks like they're attending the funeral of a fallen trooper, probably is what's it. Okay, for 17 years. He was a trooper for 17 years. This is the kid, I'm telling you, River Gibbs, who was gay in the Michael Jackson community, but he left the community because he called Michael Jackson a pedophile. And it's like, well, he's calling Michael Jackson a pedophile. He must have in his own personal life, he must have experience with pedophilia. Because why would you be so quick to judge Michael Jackson as a pedophile, being you're a huge Michael Jackson supporter? But like I said, the day before Leaving Neverland came out, he said, we know Michael's not... So he had done thorough investigation into the allegations. That's what I'm saying. When you're a Michael Jackson supporter in the community, you've investigated the allegations of Michael Jackson being a pedophile, right? So the day before Leaving Neverland, he makes a video saying, no way is Michael Jackson a pedophile. We know this stuff. We already know that it's all scams and shit, right? The day after, he came out and said, Michael's a pedophile. I'm done with Michael Jackson. He quit the community and shit, right? And like I said, when you find out more information, what you find out, his dad was actually a homosexual, but was married to a woman, and he was a state trooper for 17 years in Kentucky. And it's like, that's why I had to show you this, just to show you that there's weird shit going on. And like I said, in states like Kentucky, and like West Virginia and Arkansas, Tennessee, there's a lot of them. You get this weird you get these inbred motherfuckers, and you get like child molestation going on weird levels. And it's like embedded into society, and it's like acceptable in ways where the ones who do it, they all know it, but then they know to keep quiet, because then they know the other people don't know about it, and because they don't know about it, they don't know about it, and then they just brush it off and be like, oh no, Jimmy's Kentucky Roadshow, no, he's not a pedophile, he's a good guy, he's a good guy and shit, right? And then they lift him up and say, no, he does things for children, oh no, he was a school teacher, right? They put in these things, like I said, to like River Gibbs' dad. If somebody was saying, oh, he's gay, like if somebody else, like another cop had said to River Gibbs' dad, if they'd say, oh, he's gay, and he'd be like, what do you mean he's gay? He's married, he goes to church, he's Christian, he's got a kid and shit, right? But he was freaking gay. So I was like, this weird shit. Kentucky State Trooper for 17 years and shit, right? So what if he fucking had went to school with Jimmy? And what if he had went to camp with Jimmy? And then if somebody's going to accuse Jimmy of being a pedophile, do you think that cop's really going to do an investigation, or he's going to inform Jimmy that, hey, somebody's making an accusation of you. Don't worry, I'll bury it for now, but you need to be aware that this is going on. So I'm saying this is just the real world. I'm just showing you, this is the real world fucking that we live in. This is what we're dealing with. And I'm dealing with multi-layered parts of evidence and discovery and process of real human existence of what's going on. What I'm dealing with is like layered and weird fucking ways. And I'm dealing with all these people. And I'm doing it by myself. And people are demanding me to be perfect, be this way. It's like, look, I can only do so much. Isn't it enough that at least I brought attention? I'm bringing attention. I'm doing a real investigation. I'm trying. I'm fucking trying.